I love to use this analogy. Brand is just like a vehicle. Now, let's say you have a vehicle that you just built. You are an engineer and you just built a very powerful vehicle with great engine, everything is working nice and good dashboard, but now it doesn't have a body. There is no aesthetics, just some structures and all of that. Many end users are not going to buy into it, no matter how you explain how powerful it is. Now, that is the internal, which is the inside, the execution, what happens inside, what happens in the low ground. So, and now I have this other part, which is the body. And when I talk about the body or the aesthetics, just like supercars and their aesthetics, now that place I like to define it as the brand, the brand colors, logo, patterns. So these two things needs to work before a brand actually work. You can't just design the body of a car and it's very nice. It won't save you from people running away from it. People won't buy it. People are not buying they are buying the functionality. So there has to be functionality and there has to be aesthetics. So too, the body has to be beautiful and the experience inside the car and the functionality needs to still work.
All right, everybody, thank you in advance. So much gratitude for taking time to watch this. I mean, I need to start keeping up with how many episodes this is. I'm pretty sure we're at 10 here or we're getting to it, but this is just a time to connect, have great conversations with innovators, leaders, thought provokers all across our industry. And this episode is so special to me because this one isn't just about our country, right? This is about a global presence and a discussion around global branding because I got somebody that's global, Mr. Universe. And so I'm going to give him a good introduction here as I like to on all the shows. And then we're going to get right into it. All right. So, everybody, uh, hold your round of applause for a second. So, welcome back to Driven by Intelligence, the show where we get to sit down with innovators, drivers of tech, automotive, all that and some. But today's guest, as I was just mentioning, is not your average designer. He's a value driven visual identity designer and brand strategist who helps automotive businesses go from generic to unforgettable. I agree with this. You've seen his work without even knowing it. His fingerprints are on dealerships and auto brands that look good, but more importantly, they feel aligned from the inside and out. That's that connection piece. Please welcome the man who believes branding is less about the logo and more about the long-term connection, Caleb C. Caleb, baby. You like
Thank
that?
you very
You
much.
better you
Thank
better
you very
keep that. I
much. I
would keep
love
that
it.
one and be like, man, this is Chicago Bulls introduction type stuff. But no, man, I meant what I said before we got on. Thank you in advance for being here. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah, and we're recording this in July. But talk to us, man. How are you doing? And give us a little bit of background on you.
Yeah, I'm doing fine and I'm doing great. I'm actually here in Nigeria and I started as a typist. I've talked about that story before on LinkedIn. So I started as a typist and my mother is a computer literate. So I had I had the opportunity to get to computers when I was much younger. And
Mm.
as I grew, that passion increased. And I first started with programming, coding, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Then along the way, I found virtual design, and man, it was so wonderful and beautiful. I was like, why not just delve into it? That's how I started learning over the years. As the journey goes on, what I've learned in life is that it's just good to start, and as you go along the way, you figure it out. And as I went on, I keep figuring it out. I think I'm still growing and I'm still seeing opportunities to learn more. So that's how.
Man, that's And hats off to your mother. It sounds like she's an innovator like yourself. And what was she always that way? Like what kicked her off in that direction?
I don't really know. I don't really know that story, but she's been working with computers for a very long time. Since she was younger,
That's
she was
crazy.
working. Yeah, yeah.
Man, no, keep going. You said she was working. You said from a very young time, like when she was your age or before your age.
No, I think she was much older than me when she
Okay,
started. So she was working with some businesses, typing, designing, and the rest of them at that time.
wow, that's magical. Well, hats off to mom, and hats off to you for being innovative. So, a question that I have, doing some research, you mentioned that branding, because I've seen this in your post. Branding isn't just about how much you look; it's about how the brand is perceived. And so in automotive, we know perception can make or break trust. I just posted about this recently about increasing increasing trust with your customers. I think that's part of the experience to get past price and uncertainty, especially during affordability. But my question is, how can the dealership shift the perception when they've been stuck in more of a transactional mindset versus something that's more of like, this price first? Like, how do you get them when you think about a brand? Because you know what I'm talking about, Caleb, where you see the dealers that they focus on 10 grand off, 20 grand off, and that's all it is. But how do you get people's perceptions to change around thinking about brand instead of just that transactional relationship?
So I've always talked about this. There's the internal and the external parts of building a branding, and then there's the transactional and then the real branding. Many people or many dealers just focus on the transactional part, which is not actually branding, because branding is all about building perception in the mind of people about a particular product, service, a group of people. And how I do this is by studying them, because I've seen many people or many dealerships, they are not actually intentional about their brand.
Right.
They don't even have their brand defined. So they don't even know what it's all about. Talk more of the audience out there knowing. So I try to get them to understand what branding is, define the brand, and let them know their values, their purpose. I've discovered in my journey that people always try to align or tie themselves with things that have purpose. So I try to help them discover their purpose and also get it out there, help them understand their messaging and get it out there. Now, when they have all these things defined, we create an identity for them. Now, is this identity that make people attach themselves to the brand, or feel that perception? Is that identity? It's just like a personal brand or just like a normal human being. Is our identity that shapes people's perception about us? Is our identity that shapes people's perception about us? So I help them create identities that create perception in the mind of people. So, and this can be done, or it can be portrayed through content and marketing. As I can see, many people are delving into it now. Many
Yeah.
people are delving into it now, and you see some people doing video contents and the rest of them. The problem with this is that most of those videos are not actually intentional or on brand. So it's good, that's a process. But I try to help dealers or automotive brands create their brand, set it in place, and make their marketing, their contents, and everything to rhyme with it, so that people have that signature in their mind about the particular people they are. Yeah.
Man, that's so good. I like what you talk about. There's a couple of things that I wrote down that I think are important. You talked about the purpose a lot, like what the brand's all about. But I like when you're talking about defining the identity. You know, like what are you really trying to become, and who are you? And I feel like it's funny because that's not just for businesses, that's for humans too. I feel like, you know, when I'm coaching and
Yeah,
training people, sometimes I have to reinvent people and get them to understand who is your personal brand? Like what do people need to feel and know about you? And it's interesting to hear you say it from a business standpoint. But the other thing that I take away that I think is important about what you said is it's no different, Caleb, when I listen to you speak about staying on brand and being consistent with that brand. Is, say, if a business has a brand, so say a dealership has their brand and what they're about, I think it's also important that the team, if they're going to be an extension of that brand and send videos, because you know I'm all about sending videos, but you know I
yeah,
coach on this too, to make sure that your videos are staying on brand with your dealership too, because you don't want to go
yeah,
too far off. Like we have our personal brands, but it's no different. I have a personal brand, but then there's also a business brand. There's certain things in
yeah,
my personal brand I cannot talk about and do because it will mess the business brand up. You know, like I
yeah,
stay away from
exactly.
like politics. You know, I don't get into a lot of those things because that's more of a personal brand, or that could get tied to a personal brand, and it could be an extension of the business. So I love how you broke that down. That's really good. Really good.
Yeah, thank you.
So next question that I have for you is expanding on branding a little bit. And you mentioned about video and talking about visuals, but the question I have is, what clarity does the business need when it even comes down to picking the colors? You know what I mean? Like I know you get deep into everything, but talk to us about how you choose colors in certain artwork when working with that brand.
Yeah, so actually, color psychology, I want to talk about that. Sometimes it matters in branding, and most times it doesn't matter. Sometimes you need to just create what you want and get it out to the people to like.
Hmm.
So most times you hear most designers or strategists say, we have to do research on the color that will work with the audience, or the color that is good, and most times it doesn't work. Sometimes you just come up with colors you think is cool, that aligns with the personality of the brand or what they're actually going for. So you just pick the color, and is now the responsibility of contents that you are getting out there to now get that color into the mind of people, or make them know more about it. So I don't stress myself much about it. I just do research. Why I do research mostly on colors is to know competitor colors and think of how
Uh,
we can stand out, because there needs to be differentiation. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Like looking at what other people have for a color brand, because that also shows an opportunity, right? Because you wouldn't, if all your competitors and everybody in the market is rocking blue, you know, then it might make sense
Yeah.
to be that first one that rocks orange or rocks, you know, yellow as their color, or even red. But I never thought
Yeah,
about that. That's
exactly.
good. No, keep going. So the next question I have is, this one is around identity. And so the way I have it written is, it talks about leaders scaling their brand, like having a scalable brand system. And I know this is important, especially as we get into AI. Like this is the big deal. But can you break down what scalability means in branding, and then why it matters even for like a one rooftop store, but scaling brand? What's your thoughts around that and what that means?
Now, scaling brands have become so easy, and I'm going to talk about two parts of actually scaling branding. I'll talk about scaling the identity, and then scaling the brand itself. So scaling brand nowadays has become very easy. Most people don't even do print ads anymore. They just go online, and that's the right way, because when you go out there on the internet, you've got a lot of eyes on you, and you just have to build it and get it out there.
Hmm.
And the more you gather the people that align with your purpose and value, that's why I talk about purpose and value. The brand needs to be defined for it to be scalable. So once you get people that are tied to that value and purpose, the more it continues to scale. Now, about the identity part, I sometimes talk about it. I say a brand identity needs to be scalable. Now, when I talk about here, or let's talk about the virtual aspects. Assuming you created a logo, and that logo kind of only works on your website,
Hmm.
and when you try to put it on a smaller media piece or a smaller stuff, is it gets unrecognizable or lost. Now it doesn't work. When I talk about scalability or flexibility, now I try to help clients make their logo, their colors, and their patterns scale and just be able to work on different platforms, medias, and all of them. I get these problems a lot whereby we need to work on something, and the logo is just flat. It's not like it's not a good logo, but it doesn't work because once it works, maybe let's say it works on a brochure, it can't be able to work on a website. It will be shrinked, or will be awkward, or will be too small.
Yeah.
So this is the side of scalability on the virtual identity aspect.
Man, I never thought about that. You brought up a whole different thing when you think about the logo aspect of it and scaling it. Because you're right. Because you think about even the business cards and different places and all the way down to merchandise. Um,
Yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah,
like I've seen people's hats and shirts not, not look the best because of that logo placement and the size, and then they'll have the
yeah,
abbreviations sometimes, and I even have
yeah,
to deal with that
exactly.
because there's different versions of my logo. I remember I used to have one, and somebody said, "Oh, I remember when you had the bars," and I was like, "Wow!" Like they were talking about my brand from like what they've seen, and I was like, "Wow, that's
Yeah,
pretty interesting how they connect and what they think of that brand when they see it versus what I was trying to communicate with that brand." So I'm learning a lot here as we go. So
yeah, yeah,
another question about branding is, because this thing about OEMs, and I know this is always tough for dealerships because you've got your dealership brand, but then you've got the OEMs, the manufacturers, the BMW, Stellantis, like all of them have their own brand, right? And then you've got franchises.
yeah,
So when some dealers think that branding is only for big companies when they think about that, they're thinking about manufacturers or national campaigns, but when you're sitting down, and this hits homes for me because most of the dealerships I work with are small rooftop dealerships, between 2 to 10. Some of them have 20 stores, and then there's a few like just one store by themselves. And so one thing that I think they struggle with is how can they create a brand? Because they're thinking of brands that are like big. They're thinking Apple, they're thinking Nike, but when you sit down and talk to like a local general manager at a store, how do you get them to think about brand at their level? Because most dealerships are thinking about car deals. That's all they're thinking about, money. How do you get a general manager to see that branding is going to help their business not just instantly, but for further down the road?
I love that question a lot because when I came into the automotive industry, I was like, why can't dealerships just brand and just go out of the way and do it expressively?
Hmm.
Then, as time went on, I began to notice how branding between OEMs and the brands under them work. So these dealerships, they have to create a brand that still works under the main OEM. So it has to be tied to the OEM somehow. But that's not even a limit. That's not a limit, because when assuming a dealership is small now and they want to still create a brand, it's very much possible.
Hmm.
With virtuals, it's very much possible. You can create a brand that is tied the original brand and still be scalable and still make yourself timeless. Because if you want to be, branding is all about being timeless and being memorable. So if you want that, you can still create a brand by still creating your own virtual identity that is tied to the
Hmm.
OEMs, kind of somehow. Assuming the OEM is using a red color, you can create a very good brand or an identity from that and still scale it. Now, let's talk about the internal level. Content is here, and I've seen many dealerships that are doing wonders with it, and they still stay on brand, and still they are in the hearts of people and people just know them. There are many Toyota dealerships, but there are special ones because they have contents out there that have talked a lot about their identity, their values, how they work on the inside, and what they have in mind to bring to the people out there.
Wow. I like what you said about taking the OEM brand, like you can take that color and you could even still parlay, you can do a really good brand off that and really, and I can think of a few because like a good friend of mine, Cody, he's got a store, it's a Honda Point, and even they, because you know Honda's blue and it's I think it's Steve Padgett, but like when you look at their branding, it stays pretty on brand with Honda. But they've done a phenomenal job of branding their store. They've got the
Yeah,
avatar. They've got the I think the owners like their brand part of their logo. I guess you could
yeah,
kind of say, and then there's like a cartoon version of it or anime, but it's amazing what that's done for that store because it's consistent. It's on their website, it's on their emails, it's on all their communications, and it's made that store become really sticky, like give it like a family feel. So I hope that hits home for the
yeah,
listeners that are thinking about the goal of this conversation today, having you on, and I'm so glad that you did this, is to get people to think more than just they're a dealership, more than just traditional marketing or any of that. I really want them to think long term about the power of brand because you see, to me, when I think about branding, I also think about the reputation and I guess the retention. So it's like reputation and retention for me with consumers and employees. You know, we think about customers so much when we think about branding. When I hear you, because I have so many notes, and we're always thinking about branding in terms of car deals and establishing a brand that makes customers want to come to us. But think about employees, what the branding is doing for the employees that want to come and be a part of a brand. You know, like I remember my son for the longest time, and I mean, I think he still might want to, but wants to go to school at Clemson, and it's all because of the branding that they have. You know, like
yeah,
since he was a little kid, he's wanted to go to this college, and it's the colors. You know, they're orange. They've got the paw print and all these things going for him, and he's been so attached to that. To now, he wants to go to school there and maybe even do business and work out there. All because the attachment of a brand of a school.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
see, schools do a really good job with branding. We can learn a lot from colleges if we took a lot of what colleges do with branding and mix that with dealerships and see how they get people to really buy in on brand, the clothes and how they carry themselves and what you said, the identity. So this has been really good. So I want to ask you another question before we get into. I have some rapid fire questions and then we'll bring it to a close. But is there any question that you can think of or anything that you kind of wanted to bring up on this show or talk about that we did not talk about? that's important.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about this. Many people think that the effects of branding happens just instantly, which is a very big mistake. When a brand is being created, what should be have in mind is long term memorability and timelessness is something that takes a very long time. People also think is marketing, like you just create your brand and then maybe in the next 1 month everything start going boom. It happens, but the real resource and the massive resource happens along the line at a very long time. It just happens and it stays there. So that's why dealers and automotive brands should think of brand as something that lasts or something that takes time. It's not something that just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there, let me ask you a question. This is a weird one. Is there a way to measure brand? Like, is there a way to measure how well or how effective a brand is doing over time? Like, are there tools? Because I know for a while, somebody was trying to sell me, it was like a software that quote unquote measured how people were talking. I would call that reputation management, but is there anything that you look at, whether it be Google or data or AI, that you use to measure a business's or a dealership's growth of their brand?
Yeah, this is actually great, and Google reviews does that for me, especially if it's somehow established online. So whenever I try to work with customers, I always also check their Google reviews, see what people are talking about them out there, and see how we can change the narrative. Because many people they think they are doing it right, but their Google reviews just says the opposite. So I look at that and still look for ways to change the narrative. Is what people actually say that determine the brand, and also I try to learn more about their employees because there's one thing I always say: employees are also customers. They are the first customers. They are the first point that that brand is. So if they are not attached or if they are not into it, they don't understand the value or they are not even interested in your brand. That's a very big problem because they will actually be the first. They'll be the first to give that word of mouth marketing.
Yeah,
I like to talk about word of mouth marketing in two ways. They have the positive and they have the negative.
yeah,
Now, when it's positive, we know it's good, and when it's negative, we know how it can be. My guy was asking me the other day, he asked me what's the most important thing in business, and I was telling him it's actually the employees first and then the customers. Because one loss of interest of an employee can lead to loss of 100 customers.
yeah.
Let's say you have a company and you have an employee that is not being served well or done well. He can go out there and say, I'm not into the stuff these guys are doing. It doesn't work. Or they just have I just have bad experience working there. So that can lead to the person they told telling another person, the person they just told telling another person, and the news just increases. The same with customers. When customers have bad experiences, it's not just for them. They still go out there and tell people, and people will tell people, and people will tell people. The chain continues. So that's it.
Yeah, it's so funny. I'm like, I'm drawing. I wish you'd see it, but it's like I'm drawing like these arrows because I'm thinking it's like people, and then it's like an arrow brand, and then brand goes to experience, and experience goes to culture. Then it goes like and I guess what I'm noticing and as I'm listening to you speak is that all of it's connected. Like you can't have a powerhouse brand that looks good. You hire Caleb, and man, he got the colors, you got it all. But then internally, if you're treating your first customer, your employees, if you're not treating them well, right? If they don't feel respected and feel valued, you wasted your time trying to build this brand, So it's like
Yeah.
that's why I like what you said. It's the identity. What are you about? What do you need to be known for? Then that's your brand, but you also have to execute and do it and live
Yeah.
it. Because if you're not, to your point, the people aren't going to lie. Your customers are not going to hold back, and your employees are not going to hold back. So your brand,
Yeah.
if it's off, I could see why you could go to a Google review and read 10 reviews, and if all the people are saying experience was terrible, experience is terrible, but the brand says
You
it,
run away.
yeah, experience made easy is what the brand says. That's not that
Yeah.
they got some internal issues. So um,
I love to
keep going.
I love to use this analogy. Brand is just like a vehicle. Now, let's say you have a vehicle that you just built. You are an engineer and you just built a very powerful vehicle with great engine, everything is working nice and good dashboard, but now it doesn't have a body. There
Ooh.
is no aesthetics, just some structures and all of that. Many end users are not going to buy into it, no matter how you explain how powerful it is. Now, that is the internal, which is the inside, the execution, what happens inside, what happens in the low ground. So, and now I have this other part, which is the body. Now, when I talk about the body or the aesthetics, just like supercars and their aesthetics, now that place I like to define it as the brand, the brand colors, logo, patterns. So these two things needs to work before a brand actually work. You
Yeah.
can't just design the body of a car and it's very nice. It won't save you from people running away from it. People won't buy it. People are not buying they are buying the functionality. So there has to be functionality and there has to be aesthetic. So too. So the body has to be beautiful and the experience inside the car and the functionality needs to still work.
Wow. That's good. I like that. Branding is like a vehicle. That's it's like a home. It's like it's so much. Yeah, yeah. This was good. I love that last clip a lot. I can get a lot of notes and a lot of substance, and I have a feeling that that will be around. That message will stay for forever. So thank you for that. Well, let's get into it. So I'm gonna ask you some quick questions, and you got to have some quick responses. Um, so we'll get into it with the first one. You ready? A brand
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
think, a brand you think is dominating right now. What's the first brand that comes to mind?
I would say Apple.
All right. Next, one thing dealers should stop doing on their websites.
You said
One thing dealers should stop doing on their websites.
what they should stop doing on their websites. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
what's something that you see on their website that dealers should stop doing?
Okay, what they should stop doing is actually showing pop-up ads and stacking
Yeah.
text all over the place.
Yes, you heard it from Caleb. I agree. I do not like pop ups. Like, if I come on to, unless it's a pop up that's based on my last experience and it's saying, Duran, here's another coupon for your service because you are about to book a service appointment. Okay. But you could still text that to me. You don't need to have that pop up on the computer. That's good. All right.
It's not just about the pop-up, it's about the stack of it.
Yes, gosh. The most underrated part of a strong brand. Most underrated part of a strong brand.
Virtuals, actually. Virtuals.
Visuals, yeah. What's your go to creative fuel? Do you do music, coffee, or silence?
Music,
Oh, what are you listening to? What music you listen to?
hip hops.
All right. All right. Most overused color in dealership branding.
I think it's actually blue.
All right. Yeah, you're right. Blue. That's that. I think that's psychology is like numbers, blue, male not male dominance, but I want to say it's like I remember there was anyways, that's a whole nother time. I'm not even gonna get into that. Next, last question. Now I've got last one. This is good. If your brand had a theme song, what song would that be?
It seems song.
Yeah,
I can't answer that question.
that's a tough one,
It
man.
seems
What's the
song.
theme song? Because I'm thinking about
Yeah,
Family Matters, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Think about the song. What songs for Caleb plays for Caleb? What is his theme song?
I don't actually know.
Yeah, see, that's a tough one. You're gonna have to think about that because that's a good because you can start asking clients like that. Hey, what's gonna be our theme song? What's gonna be our song? It's almost like your jingle, right? Like what's that music that plays that really? And I struggle with. I'm thinking about myself when I was looking at that question. I'm like, dude, what song is that for my business? And for me, I think it would change depending on the season that I'm in. Um, yeah, I'm not sure, but it would probably be something around gratitude because it really is. It's an honor to have a business, to be connected, to have great friends all the way over in Nigeria, where it's 7:42 on my side Central Time, and it's what is it 1:42 your time?
142. Yeah,
Yeah,
142.
1:42 in the afternoon. The sun's shining bright, and the sun's not even really shining yet here. So this has been great. I thank you so much for being flexible. And apologies again on our scheduling mishaps because it should have been recorded sooner. So I'm glad that this worked out all in perfect timing. And is
Yeah.
there anything that you want to say before I let you go? And most importantly, also let the audience know, the Cage community, because they're going to see this in their course, but the whole LinkedIn world, everybody that somehow doesn't know you, how can they connect with you if they want to go deeper into a discussion with partnering with you or going into branding? Um, how do they do that?
Okay, first of all, I just want to thank you for, this is actually my first time of being on a podcast and you made it happen. So I want to thank you and I want to
Yeah.
appreciate you too. Not only that, you've been a very great source of inspiration since the time I stepped my foot inside this industry. So it's been very wonderful and thank you very much for that. So for what I would like to tell my audience, I'll have to tell them that branding is more of executing. And then the second thing is that I would like to tell them generally is to start whatever you want to start, just start and start it now. Don't wait for the perfect time. And then how you can contact me, I have a very strong presence on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, Caleb C. Caleb, that's my name. Caleb C. Caleb, double Caleb, and you can find me. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you. And you heard them, folks. Start right now. Start connecting. Start branding. It's such a great conversation. I know this won't be the last one that Caleb and I have together. So until that next time, again, so much gratitude. Thank you for sharing your time, your wisdom, your energy, most importantly, your light. And I look forward to getting this out to the world. So thank you. Be well.
Thank
Gratitude. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me. It's always great, and I thank you for it. So, if you could do me a big favor, fam, if you want more videos like this, please like, subscribe, comment, share this out. And hey, if you want to see something different or if you have some feedback for me, send me a message. Love to hear back from you. But until then, thank you all. Keep winning. Be well.